back, everybody, to Hearing Things with Julie and Brad. We are so excited to have another special guest with us who is super special to me as my niece and my goddaughter and bestie and like another kid to Mark and I, and she's just the best ever. And here she is. So, introduce yourself. Say hello to the people.
My name's Kathryn. I'm Julie's niece. And mini-me. I'll claim that. I don't know. Yeah. That's it. That's all I got for you.
Kathryn, one of the questions is, how long have you known me?
Well, I'm
literally
22.
Your entire life.
So, 21 years, technically? Well, no, because you guys... Oh, you
I
were...
was there the night you were born.
Oh, yes.
I was at the hospital.
Okay, you're right.
I was there.
Listen, everything starts from, like, the wedding on. I got nothing before that.
No, that's true. All right,
so 22 years.
So here we go. So, Kathryn, what is the earliest memory you have of my hearing loss, if you can think of one, or even from childhood? Like, what's kind of a defining moment of learning about my hearing loss or interacting with me in such a way?
I don't know if I have, like, a specific moment, because I feel like it was always just kind of known that you had hearing loss. Like, it was something that we just knew growing up. It wasn't anything that was like, oh, that's different.
Right.
Like, it was just normal for us.
Just a normalized... That's just how Auntie Julie's body works and the way we go.
Yeah, I think I started to realize it more as I got older. I always think the trip to New York for my 13th birthday was a big, like... Because my sisters had warned me about, like, the alarm clock with the bed, and they were like, oh, it shakes. And I was like, what does that mean? Like, I was like, what, like, the whole room shakes? Like, I didn't know what it meant.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really have an exact, like, moment where I was like, oh, that makes sense. So.
Perfect. What are some of the things you do to it, like accommodations or modifications that you do for me, or actually for Brad also at this point, that, you know, you just kind of do naturally or realize that we might need something different? So I'm going to talk into the camera. Yeah,
I'm more aware of, like, lip reading and whatnot. So I try my best to make sure that both of you can see my lips when I'm talking. And just enunciating more clear. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's kind of the only... like, issue that I mean, it's not even an issue. Like, the barrier that it kind of creates.
Sure.
But yeah, I feel like it's just been such, like, a second nature thing for me anyways. So I'm super conscious of making sure that, like, I'm speaking clearly and loud enough, but not screaming, because that doesn't help.
No.
Yeah.
Doesn't help the clarity.
But yeah.
Well, I will say that, like, when I met you at the tailgate.
Yeah.
It was very clear that you were very intentional.
Yeah.
And it was on your mind, and I think that goes a long way. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. I try my best.
Can't see his next question. Oh, so we had you on the show not only because you're special to me and you're my niece, goddaughter, and mini-me and everything else.
Yeah.
And very good with the old deaf people here.
Yes.
Your job lends itself to some opportunities you've had with the deaf and hard of hearing community. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Kind of what you do and how you interact with your customers. I know that you've had a pretty significant amount of customers that are deaf or hard of hearing, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so I work in retail. So we get a whole mishmash of people. But definitely more like during the day and stuff. We have a lot of adult day groups that come. They do like field trips to the mall for life skills and stuff like that. But a lot of them are like deaf or hard of hearing groups. Which is super interesting. There's only like one group in specific that we see relatively frequently.
Sure.
And then we have a couple of regular customers that we see pretty often. They're big fans of like Legos and what we sell. So we see them often, and a lot of them kind of, we know that like they're hard of hearing. And so there's just kind of an understanding that like they come in, they get their product and they leave. Which is, like, not what we would normally do for every guest that comes in. We greet them, we walk them in, like, all this stuff. But they tend to not be as receptive to that because there is that barrier of, kind of a language barrier.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do have a larger community, more than I've seen in any other retail job I've worked.
Do they self-identify? Do you know that
some of them do. I mean, some of them visibly have hearing aids, so you can tell
Sure.
that way. Some of them, they come in and they're signing. So it's about assuming that they're hard of hearing. That also might just be their mode of communication. But yeah, some of them, for the most part, because we greet everyone that comes in, and at least with the adult daycare groups, they have usually like a leader with them that is usually hearing.
Okay.
So they'll say like, oh, they're deaf. And then it's just like, okay, like any normal transaction. I know some of them, like, it is tricky because some of them know what they want when they come in, and they know we have rewards cards and stuff like that. But others don't, so that's where it gets really tricky, trying to communicate that with them.
Sure.
So.
Are there any assistive listening devices available for hearing impaired customers, or any environmental considerations that you guys have in place automatically, like carpeting or a quieter checkout area or anything like that? Or is it just pretty much your typical standard store with nothing else offered?
It's your standard store. We have tile floors, big tall ceilings. And we don't really have, like, we just kind of have one giant front desk at the checkout. And it's a children's store primarily, so it is loud and busy. And it can be very tricky to navigate with, like, the customers that we do have that are hard of hearing.
So, in terms of sensitivity training, which is a phrase that I hate, but have you been given any formal training or professional development on how to interact with people with exceptional needs like hearing loss from either your local branch or corporate, or a training manual? Is there anything available to employees that has been offered up by corporate?
So not specifically for hard of hearing. We do a lot of like general disability training. We have a program for hidden disabilities and like a kind of an autism alliance that we work with. That's pretty much it for our training. Yeah, they don't specifically teach us how to comfortably navigate like a hard of hearing community.
Well,
I know,
Yeah.
and I feel bad. I feel bad saying that because it's like it's tough.
But it's so rare. That's why I was curious.
Right, it is. Yeah,
it's actually your situation is more the norm than not.
Right, because I have the experience with it, and
something we're hoping to bring more awareness and advocacy work to in time.
Yeah.
Also, so if you want to hire us, we'll come and do it.
Okay.
Anyway, all right.
I'll ask.
Have you seriously? You know me. I'll go anywhere. I'll do anything else. Have you been in an uncomfortable situation with a customer trying to communicate or navigate a transaction? Can you tell us a little bit about that, about how you handled it?
Yeah, I think it's more just like I feel bad because I don't know how they're feeling, but I can assume just based off of like what I know from you guys. But it can be tough because if they're trying to communicate with us, it's all through like their phone, so they're just typing things out.
Right.
But you can like they're trying to do it quickly, so they're not holding up a line.
Right.
And then it kind of creates that like they feel uncomfortable because they're like wasting time. But it's not like to me. I'm like, take your time.
Right.
Like I got all the time in the world. But we do most of the customers that we do have that come in have their rewards card pulled up on their phone ready to go. So they kind of get the gist of it. But our new customers that haven't really experienced it before, it's hard to kind of match the same energy of a transaction with someone that is hearing.
Well, that's a lot of what we've talked about on the show. We talk about with each other is that anticipatory, knowing the routine of where you're going, what interaction you're going to have, and how we try and get out in front of it because it can be really stressful. So that's interesting to see that you've observed that. Also, have you ever had to intervene with coworkers during an awkward or an ineffective moment of communication or lack thereof with a deaf or hard of hearing customer?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
I think it's just like my staff specifically. I love them all dearly, but sometimes they are so focused on the script that we are told to follow.
Okay.
That like if they're asking like, oh, do you have a rewards card? And this person just is not interested nor like is like, I'm good, because they know it's difficult for them to communicate. Sometimes like my staff is just like, no, but do you have, and they just keep pushing. And I'm like, and not to dismiss anyone, but I think like I can sense the tension between the two.
Sure. That
I'm like, it's okay. Like we'll, or we go to the point where like we have, so our entire POS system is on iPhones now, which is helpful, but we aren't allowed to have guests touch the phones. So they have to just speak their email to us. But in most of the guests that we see come in, most of them don't speak.
Sure.
So
that adds another level.
Right.
That's
so it's tough because a lot of them are like, no, you can't touch the phone. Like, I have to do it for you. But there really is no other way for them to give us their email for the rewards program. So a lot of it is like, it's okay, just let them hold the phone. Which hopefully no one from corporate sees this. But for accommodations, it definitely, it would be helpful if we had a workaround with that.
Sure.
So how do you view or treat customers with hearing loss based on your experience with Julie? So and your growing up with Julie, does that run through your mind when you're when you're interacting with these people?
I think I'm definitely more aware, and like watching my own surroundings and the way that I'm speaking and making sure like my head is always on a swivel when I'm at work because it's busy. But when I am speaking to a guest that I know is hard of hearing, I make sure to like personalize me to this guest until the end of their shop around. But I mean, I don't treat them any like differently than anyone else. Sure. Like it's not like the royal treatment, and it's not like just a dismissive like, okay, see you later.
Wait, don't you treat Julie like royalty?
When I come in, like,
well, that's a little different.
So in such a loud environment, there's so much background noise, right? Just by nature of the layout of the
we
store.
have music, we have children.
I mean, you must get frustrated yourself. I mean, do you have problems hearing the customers? If we flip the script the other way, right? Like you must have some.
It's very overstimulating on weekends and like people are still wearing masks. That's my number one enemy. Because it's the mumbling, and I mean for you guys it's probably even worse. But there's mumbling, there's a lot of language barriers as well, which can make it really tricky, especially if they have to like recite things to us, like their email. It gets really tricky. And it's very overstimulating. But,
so it kind of gives you a perspective in a different way of what a deaf or hard of hearing customer may be experiencing coming into your environment. So it's interesting that as someone with typical hearing, you're feeling the frustration and the overstimulation and the noise and how overwhelming that can feel, for sure. So, last question. What do you wish people knew about deaf or hard of hearing folks and kind of the way we move through the world based on your experience, not only with me, but working with the public? So if you had to give some advice to people out there that maybe don't have as much familiarity or experience interacting with fabulous folks like us, what do you have to offer?
I mean, just, it's like, it's good to have the awareness of it, but it's not something that you need to tiptoe around. Like, it's not something that's scary. I think for us, like, working in retail, it is very easy to just, like, almost ignore the guests when they come into the store. But it's always, like, one thing I do is I usually, like, I'll walk around and I'll try and kind of, like, speak to them with my eyes. Sure. And we'll have, like, the understanding that, like, they're good, I'm good, they don't need help. We'll just wait until checkout. I think some people are just kind of like afraid to even touch it because they don't want that interaction to be uncomfortable, which it's easy to avoid uncomfortable things.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't treat it any differently. And I feel like it's hard for me to say that because it is so second nature,
sure.
Like growing up with you.
Fair, yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't, like any hearing person really, especially in the retail world. It's no different for us than any other guest that we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
That's great.
Curious question: do you have your cell phone with you all the time, like or a work sanctioned cell phone that you're using when you interact with customers?
Yes.
I wonder if using a caption app or the caption setting on her phone would be something to offer your hearing impaired customers, that you speak into it and words come up and they can read it off your phone.
They may not be able to install other apps on the phone. It might just be that one app. Can you open multiple apps on the phone?
Or if you have an iPhone, you can do the open caption setting.
They are iPhones.
That's something to consider.
They might be
something
disabled,
to look
but
into.
it's good.
Yeah,
And
I know we can't like download things without like permission.
Right.
So the live transcribe is part of the settings, so it's part of the iOS. And
That might be
if you
something
could
I'll
turn
have
on
to look
that-
into that and check. I know, we definitely have. It's unfortunate that we don't have like any sort of training or anything that kind of pertains on how to deal with stuff like that. Most of our training is just about like rambunctious children.
We're happy to
So-
provide.
Which is needed.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's another issue, but
Yeah.
We will continue the conversation, Kathryn, and
Yeah.
we are more than happy to. I'm volunteering us right now.
Don't you always?
Why not?
More than
Why
happy
not?
to come and do a meeting with the staff if that's something anyone was ever
yeah,
looking for, especially because you have such a large population of deaf and hard of hearing customers.
yeah,
We're happy to be a little professional development
Sure.
yeah, absolutely,
experience, something we could work out business-wise. Be great.
absolutely. That'd be so much
So
fun.
we'll keep the conversation open, and we'll talk more about that because I just volunteered us for something that I don't know if you want to do.
I never know what's gonna happen. I'm just along for the ride, guys.
Yeah, no biggie.
All right. So, as you know on the show, we're more than just our hearing loss, so we always go back to books, which is something we love so much. So, what do you got?
It's actually back there.
Okay, can you reach it?
Before we switch seats. Okay, so I have Mission Hill
Ooh.
by Pamela Weschler. It is a little bit of everything. It's like true crime, like affair, romance, kind of mystery stuff. It is very good. I am not a big reader. Sorry.
No.
But when I do read, I'll read like crime is my genre. This book I breezed through over the summer. It took me like a couple of beach trips, and there is a sequel to it called The Graves. Much better than the first one.
Ooh, that's
yeah,
rare. Yeah.
very good. And she is a local author. She's from Boston. And the book is based in Boston as
I was
well.
going to ask you if
Yeah,
Mission Hill is our
it
Mission
is.
Hill.
It is.
Yeah.
So
Those are always fun.
Yeah.
it's cool, like
Oh,
to
I'm
read
gonna check
it
it
and be
out.
like, oh, I know where that is. So yeah, it's a little taste of home, but it's crime, so not that great. But yeah, it's a good book.
Perfect. So, my recommendation is under my Chronicles of Narnia over there on my teddy bear.
Hold, please.
Oh! Anybody that knows me knows Frank Sinatra is, like, besides Boston College, the second love of my life. And Ava Gardner, my favorite actress of all time, and I identify with her on a visceral level. She was amazing. She was so ahead of her time, just passionate and so intelligent and just forged ahead in the face. Just everything flew in the face of convention as far as she was concerned. She was just incredible. And they are the best, worst love story ever. They loved each other almost too much. You know, like there was such passion between them, and they just couldn't get it together to just have like a healthy, functional relationship. They're a hot mess. This book is awesome, and my favorite quote is Ava saying, "I miss Frank. Well, I miss fighting with Frank." I mean, they were just fabulous. It was just so much fun. I mean, their first date, they were out in Palm Springs in a convertible shooting off guns, like, as they're driving. I mean, they were wild.
Speaking of true crime.
The fights,
Yeah, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
The dishes being
Little
thrown
crossover
and-
episode.
oh my God, she was the love of his life. He went on and got married 2 more times after. And every night, not every night, but the night before his subsequent weddings, he would call her and make sure they didn't have a chance. Otherwise, he'd call off the wedding and go back to her. He had a statue of her at his house in Palm Springs.
A statue?
A statue. His last
That's a
wife,
little
Barbara, made him
strange,
take the
but-
statue down. The best. So good. Highly recommended. It's fun. It's fun. What do you got?
I'm going to go in a very different direction because I always
Not
do.
always.
So, Broke
Oh.
in America
Wow.
by Joanne Goldblum and Coleen Shaddox. And so I had a DEI book group at the library for a number of years, and we did one on poverty. Because one of the things you don't hear much about is classism, because you can't say classism without being a communist. And so we read the book, and it was really interesting to see about like why poverty exists. And the systemic the systemic limitations of it. And what I appreciated the most about the book was at the end of every chapter, they would give you concrete things you could do in order to combat poverty. And some of them were really easy, like donate to your food pantry.
Sure.
And food pantry needs diapers and feminine hygiene products and that kind of stuff as well. It's more than just canned goods. So I appreciated getting into like the day-to-day stuff that you can do and the systemic issues. So yeah, Broke in America. I think I wanted to do a little bit on point of retail and stuff like that and money. So I try to make it thematic.
True crime.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
Which is thematic too. And that's why we need the balance, right?
Yeah.
You can't all be serious. People, I put
Yeah.
everybody to sleep, and
Yeah.
she agrees. She makes plans for us off the cuff.
Why not? Let's go.
No, that's Broken America. That's mine.
Yep.
But no, thank you so much, Kathryn.
Yeah,
It's
Kathryn,
really
she's
Yeah,
interesting.
no,
awesome. We're
thank you
so
guys
happy
for
you had the
having
time
me.
to come and do this with us.
Yeah.
The best.
It's fun.
She's the best.
All right, everybody. Till next week. Bye.